I was just driving to work and didn't even suspect that my usual life was living out its last days. A few words from a stranger, and then I woke up in a completely different apartment, with other dreams and a different man. The alarm clock rang at 6:30, but I woke up a minute before it. This happens when you are waiting for something important. The internal clock works more accurately than any technology. Today is a big day. Meeting with the customer, a new project, the opportunity to show that I am capable. I love days like this. I love this feeling, as if there is a stretched string inside, and it is about to sound. Carefully slipped out from under the blanket, trying not to wake Oleg. He was sleeping, turned to the wall, and did not even move. However, he rarely wakes up before 8. Work allows. It was dark and quiet in the kitchen. It was not yet dawn outside the window, only the lanterns cast yellow spots on the fresh snow. I clicked the button on the coffee maker, and while it hissed and gurgled, I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. Snowflakes were spinning in a cone of light, slow, weightless, beautiful. At such moments the city seems almost fabulous. Coffee, toast with cheese, a quick shower. Then the most pleasant thing, choosing an outfit. I opened the closet and immediately knew what I would wear: red coat. My favorite, fitted, with a wide belt and a slightly flared skirt. I bought it 2 years ago at a sale in TSUM, incredible luck, almost for nothing. Oleg then said that the color was too bright, and that's exactly what I liked. To go with the coat, a leather cap, which I brought from St. Petersburg. Black boots with stable heels. I decided to leave the curls loose, just a little twisted the ends with a curling iron. The mirror in the hallway showed me a woman I liked, 30 years old, a methodologist of a good company, lives in Moscow, building a career. From Uryupinsk, where everyone knows each other, here, to a big city, to a big life. Dad would be proud. I touched the pendant on my neck, a thin chain with a small pendant in the shape of a leaf. His gift for his 16th birthday. Oleg never woke up while I was getting ready. I looked into the bedroom. I wanted to say bye, but he was sleeping so soundly that I didn't want to wake him up. I left a note on the refrigerator. I left for work. I'll be late in the evening, a meeting. I put my feet in my boots and went out into the frosty morning. The street smelled of freshness and a little smoke, and traces of an exhaust pipe. The snow creaked under my heels, my cheeks immediately stung from the cold. Invigorates. To the metro, 10 minutes at a brisk pace. I love this route, past the playground, then through a small square, then the station. In winter it's incredibly beautiful here. The trees are covered in frost, the benches are covered with snow. In the summer I sometimes sit here after work with a book. Oleg doesn't understand why sit on a bench if there is a sofa at home. But I don't understand him, why sit at home. The metro at rush hour is a separate form of art. But I learned to dive into the crowd, find my place, abstract from the noise. Headphones, music, and you are no longer in a crowded carriage, but somewhere in your own world. Today the player was playing an old French chanson, Edith Piaf. I love retro, both music and films. Oleg laughs at this, says that I was born at the wrong time. Well, so what? An escalator at a transfer. The crowd carries you forward, and you just float in this flow. I was thinking about the upcoming meeting, scrolling through the abstracts of the presentation in my head, and suddenly I heard a voice. Not in the headphones, next to me. Sorry for being like this, right on the escalator, but you look incredibly stylish. This coat is amazing. I turned around. There was a man standing behind me, tall, dark, with a smile that made his face surprisingly open. On his shoulder was a camera, a lens was sticking out of his jacket pocket. Thank you. I slightly took out the earphone, still not understanding how to react. Compliments from strangers on the subway are not that common. Phenomenon. I'm Artyom. He extended his hand right on the moving escalator. Photographer. Professional deformation. I noticed beautiful shots everywhere. It turned out to be a little awkward to shake hands. We both laughed. Alfia, I said, but usually Alia. Alia. He pronounced my name as if he was tasting it. Beautiful. Listen, maybe coffee sometime? He began. I understand that this sounds strange, but I'm late, I interrupted, but smiled so as not to sound rude. Important meeting. Got it. He nodded without a hint of resentment, then good luck at the meeting. Red coat. The escalator ended, we were thrown into a stream of people rushing to the platform, but at the very exit I turned around. For some reason I wanted to. He stood a few meters away and looked at me. Noticing that I turned around, raised his hand and broke into a smile again. I waved back and dived into the passage. The meeting went perfectly. The customer is a large construction company. They need a training program for lineman managers. My strong point. I talked about the methodology, showed examples of past projects, answered questions, and saw them nod, look at each other approvingly. Specifically, said the head of the training department, we like your approach. Let's work. For words, and inside it's like fireworks. I walked around with wings all day. Colleagues asked how the presentation went, congratulated, the boss nodded approvingly, well done, Alfia. I worked, drew up a project plan, answered letters, and caught myself smiling. Good mood. Good day, a new project. But somewhere on the edge of consciousness a completely different picture surfaced. An escalator, laughter, the warm gaze of a stranger. A red coat. What stupidity. Just think, a compliment on the subway. How many of those are there? But for some reason I remembered his smile. And the way he said my name. In the evening, already at home, I warmed yesterday's chicken in the microwave and thought that the day had turned out to be extremely successful. Oleg was sitting in the room, watching some match. I could hear the commentator's screams and his rare come on. In particularly sensitive moments, how was the meeting? He shouted, without looking up from the screen, okay. We'll work, well done. And that's it. Dinner, shower, the usual silence. I was scrolling through the feed on my phone, lying on my side of the bed, and remembered the morning again. This DOS probably has dozens of such conversations a week. Photographers are like that, they see frames everywhere. The usual thing. But falling asleep, I still smiled. Week flew by like one day. The project with the construction company captivated me completely. I drew up a program, thought through modules, wrote scripts for trainings. The work that I love. When my head is in full swing, the day flies, and my hands don't have time to write down. On Friday evening I was able to exhale a little. The first stage was completed. There is a letter from the customer with gratitude in the mail. We could celebrate, but we only had enough strength to get home and collapse on the sofa. The metro in the evening is no longer as crazy as in the morning, but it's still crowded. I found a place by the door, leaned against the handrail and closed my eyes. The music in the headphones was something calm, jazzy. My body was buzzing with pleasant fatigue, my head was empty and good. At some station the carriage rocked, there were more people. I opened my eyes, mechanically looking around at those entering. Andy was amazed. Right there, the same photographer from the escalator, in the same dark jacket, with the same camera on his shoulder. He squeezed through the crowd, not yet seeing me, and I could have turned away so as not to get involved in another awkward conversation, but for some reason I didn't. He looked up and his face lit up with such sincere joy that I involuntarily smiled back. red coat. He made his way to me, not paying attention to the dissatisfied glances. I thought I dreamed about you. As you can see, I didn't dream. I took out the earphone. Hello, Stas, you remembered, he said, as if I had given him a gift. Hello, Alia. The car twitched and started. We stood next to each other, holding on to one handrail, and it would be strange to remain silent. How was that important meeting? Successfully? More than. The project has been launched. The first stage has just passed. Oh, congratulations! This should be celebrated at least with a mental cake. Mental? Well, I don't have the real thing with me. He spread his hands with feigned regret. But imagine, 3-tiered, with strawberries and chocolate glaze. I laughed. He knew how to speak in such a way that it was impossible not to smile. Where are you coming from? Are you watching beautiful shots on the subway again? Almost got it right. The shoot was an advertisement for a shoe brand. We spent 6 hours filming one pair of sneakers from all possible angles. He rolled his eyes. Sometimes my work is sheer glamour of creativity, and sometimes it's 150 close-up shots of the soul. Sounds specific, that's putting it mildly. But they pay well, there's nothing to complain about. Do you want to see what happened? He took out a camera, turned it on. Photos appeared on the screen. I understood why he was being paid. These were not just pictures of shoes, these were small stories. Sneakers on wet asphalt, in the rays of the setting sun, against the backdrop of graffiti. Light, shadow, and mood, everything was thought out to the smallest detail. Wow, I burst out. This is really beautiful. Thank you. He put the camera away, and I noticed that he was pleased with my reaction. Not the most creative shooting, but I tried to find something interesting even in commerce, it turns out. The train flew into the tunnel, the light went out. We were silent for several seconds, but it was a good silence, not awkward, but cozy. What are you doing? He asked. Last time I didn't have time to find out, you ran away to your important meeting. I'm a methodologist. I develop training programs for adults. Oh, that sounds serious. How is that? Usually, when I talk about work, people nod politely and quickly change the topic. But Stas looked with real interest. I suddenly caught myself wanting to explain. Well, imagine, a large company, hundreds of employees. They need to learn new skills, sales, management, working with programs. I'm figuring out how to make them actually learn, and not just sit through the training. So you make the boring become interesting? You could say that. A useful skill, he grinned. I would have needed one like that at school. I slept with my eyes open in physics lessons. A classic technique. I did this in chemistry. We laughed again. The train began to slow down. I looked at the board. The next station, it seemed, was his. I have to leave soon. Stas confirmed my suspicions. Listen, this will probably sound strange, but maybe we can exchange numbers. I hesitated. It flashed through my head, a stranger, we met twice in the subway. I have Oleg. But he, as if reading something in my face, quickly added, not for the sake of anything like that. You're just an interesting person. And I really want to know how your project is going. It sounded so sincere, without subtext or vulgar hints, that I almost involuntarily agreed. Okay, I said. Why not? We exchanged numbers. I saw him typing my name and couldn't help but smile. I wrote Alia in red, he explained, noticing my gaze, so as not to get confused. I have 3 Sashas, 2 Demas in my phone, and 1 girl is written down as Masha or Dasha, so you don't even know what her name is? It's a long story. She was taking me somewhere, and I lost her. Since then it's inconvenient to clarify. The train slowed down, the doors opened. I have to go, he said, walking towards the exit. Nice to meet you, red coat. Mutually, I answered. He went out onto the platform, turned around, waved. The doors closed, the train started moving. I watched him disappear into the depths of the station, and thought that for the second time in a week I was smiling because of a chance meeting on the subway. The house smelled of something burnt. Oleg was sitting on the sofa with a laptop on his lap. A TV series was flashing on the screen. In the kitchen in the sink there was a frying pan with traces of something unidentifiable. "Hello," I said, taking off my coat. "What did you cook?" "Zarnitsa." "It didn't work out, I see." I hung up my coat, changed my shoes into slippers. Oleg didn't even look up from the screen. "How was the day?" "It's fine," he muttered. "What about you?" "I passed the first stage of the project. The customer is happy, well done." "And that's it?" No questions, no interest, not even a glance to the side. Just "well done" and back to the screen. This used to bother me. Now I just nodded and went to the kitchen. Opened the refrigerator, began to cook. Habitual movements: cut, fry, salt. Over 5 years of marriage, evening cooking has turned into a ritual. Phone in pocket vibrated. I wiped my hands, looked at the screen. Message from an unfamiliar number. No, not an unfamiliar one. From Stas. "Nice to meet you, red coat. Tell me, what kind of project did you submit?" Sounded interesting. I reread the message twice. He actually asked about my work. He didn't just write hello or something idiotic, but he remembered what I was talking about, and he was curious. When was the last time Oleg asked me about projects? Not "how are you doing at work," but rather asking, being interested, wanting to understand. I pushed this thought away. Oleg is just tired, he has his own work, his own worries. You can't compare a long-term relationship with 2 random conversations on the subway. But his fingers were already typing the answer. This is a training program for a construction company. 3 modules, each for a specific purpose. Today we agreed on the first one, now you can rest a little. Sent it off. Returned to cooking. The frying pan was sizzling, the aroma filled the kitchen. The phone vibrated again. Sounds big. And what are these modules? What do you teach builders? How to lay bricks correctly? I snorted. No, not builders and not bricks. I began to explain and did not notice how I wrote a whole paragraph about the specifics of teaching adults, about the difference between theory and practice, about how important it is to take into account their experience. He answered almost immediately, asked questions, joked, told how he himself studied at the institute, until he realized that you can learn differently, through practice, through mistakes, through living experience. Dinner had long been ready. Oleg was sitting in the room, eating before TV. I was sitting in the kitchen, holding a fork in one hand, a phone in the other, and corresponded with a person whom I knew for at most half an hour. And I felt winged. It started like a trickle, thin, almost imperceptible, a message in the morning, an answer at lunch, a couple of phrases in the evening. Nothing special. Just a conversation between 2 people who are interested in each other. And then the trickle turned into a river. Have you ever been to Iceland? The message came in the middle of the working day. I was sitting at a meeting, half listening to a colleague's report and sneaking a glance at the phone screen under the table. No, I didn't even think about it. What's there? The answer came a minute later, a photograph, a black beach, white foam of waves, rocks that looked like frozen giants, a sky of an incredible shade, as if someone had spilled watercolors. I took this picture 2 years ago. It's a different planet, honestly. Turkey. Beautiful. I want to go to New Zealand someday. Oh, it's on my list. Why exactly there? The Lord of the Rings was filmed there, and in general, the end of the world. I would like to be at the end of the world at least once. I understand. Right, when you get ready, I'll make a route based on locations from the films. I smiled. The meeting ended. I still didn't understand what my colleagues agreed on. The weekend dragged on slowly. Oleg sat down with a computer game in the morning, something about tanks. I didn't I was delving into it. There was a mountain of unwashed dishes piled up in the kitchen. The refrigerator was empty. Maybe we can go somewhere, I suggested, looking into the room. The weather is good, let's take a walk. Let's go in the evening. He did not look up from the screen. Now there is a clan battle, I can't go out. I nodded, although he did not look in my direction. And what about? I went out alone. I was lying around the park, looking at the children sliding down the slide, at the loving couples with glasses and sandwiches. Beautiful, frosty, and a bit lonely. The phone vibrated. What are you doing? I'm walking in the park, alone. I'm jealous. I'm hanging out in the studio, processing yesterday's shooting 300 frames of a wedding. Weddings? This is romantic. This is when the bride changes clothes for the 4th time, and the groom asks for the 5th time, is the banquet coming soon? I laughed. The woman on the bench looked at me in surprise. Have you watched The Diamond Arm? A voice message caught me on the subway. I inserted the earphone, turned it on. This is a classic. Russo tourist, the appearance of morality. Gaidai is also a genius. It's useless to argue. Gaidai, yes, I agree. But French comedies are better. Taxi, for example, or Aliens. Are you comparing Gaidai and Taxi? It's like comparing borscht with a croissant. Both are delicious. What is the problem? The problem is that borscht is an art, and a croissant is just a pastry. You have now insulted the entire French cuisine. I am ready to bear responsibility. We bickered all evening. I was lying in bed, Oleg had long since fallen asleep, and I listened to voicemails and recorded mine, hiding my laughter under the pillow. How does adult education work, anyway? He asked once. This is completely different than teaching children. Adults are stubborn, they know everything better than anyone. We talked on the phone. For the first time, not correspondence, not voice, but a live conversation. I sat in the kitchen, drank tea. Oleg was watching football in the room. That's why it's interesting, I explained. Adults already have experience. You can't just come and say, forget everything you knew, now I'll teach you right. We need to build something new into what already exists. So you are such an architect of knowledge, I thought. No one has formulated it like this before. Probably, yes. I like this metaphor, use it, I'm giving it for free. We talked for 2 hours. When I hung up, I discovered that the tea had long cooled down, and Oleg had already gone to bed without even looking in the kitchen. Everyday life merged into one continuous stream: work, home, subway, dinners for the TV series. Oleg chose, I agreed, weekends, he in the game, I'm on the phone. We almost didn't talk. We didn't quarrel, we were just silent. When was the last time we talked deeply about something? Not how are you or fine, but about something interesting, about our plans. Probably the last time when we came together. Saturday evening. Cafe in the center, table by the window. Opposite are my 2 best friends, Lenka and Vasilisa, whom we call Liska. We have been friends since college. Lenka is the sun, an eternal optimist, teaches at an elementary school, loves her petty bandits. Liska is a chemist, works in a cosmetics company, invents formulas for creams and shampoos. Amazing, sharp, but loyal. She never abandons her friends. Well, tell me, Lenka moved closer. You've been something unusual lately. You're just glowing. Glowing? I took a sip of coffee, covering my smile. I didn't he notice. You're lying. Liska narrowed her eyes. Are you repenting, friend? What's going on? I fell silent. Is it worth telling? It's nothing like that. Well, just think, I'm texting with a stranger from the subway. Nothing like that. Well, since it's nothing like that, we can tell you. I met one person, she began cautiously, in the subway. He is a photographer. We're texting. Wow, Lenka jumped. Photographer? Beautiful? Well, yes. Quite, Liska asked again, quite. Liska did not share the delight. She looked at me carefully, twirling the spoon in her hands. Oleg? Asked quietly, what about Oleg? Did you tell him about this photographer? I hesitated. No. And I didn't tell. Why? It's just communication, friendly. Nothing like that. There is nothing to talk about, I said. We're just chatting about work. He is an interesting person. Lenka rested her cheek dreamily with her hand. An interesting person with whom you're just chatting and from whom you glow like a light bulb. I don't glow. You still do. Liska paused, then took a sip of her tea and said calmly, without condemnation, just be careful, Al. Okay, I nodded. The topic itself moved on to something else. Lenka was talking about a new student who broke a window. Liska complained about the boss who demands the impossible. An ordinary evening, ordinary conversations. But Liska's words stayed with me, just be careful. And what is caution? Is it not to talk to interesting people, not to laugh, not to be happy with messages? The phone in my pocket vibrated. I looked at the screen and felt my lips stretching themselves into a smile. I found an amazing Georgian restaurant. Khachapuri, like my grandmother's. I would like to treat you. You would like it. I love khachapuri. I'll remember. Lenka caught my gaze and smiled slyly. Liska remained silent, not sporadically on the subway, but normally. Coffee, conversation, maybe we'll have a drink here and there? The message arrived on Thursday evening. I reread it 3 times before answering. Friendly coffee, Stas told me from the very beginning. Nothing like that. Friendly communication, right? 2 adults who want to chat. Come on. On Saturday. Great. I know a place in the center. Coffee, not with panoramic windows, but with amazing light. I'm not at all surprised that he had light and the parameters for choosing a coffee shop. Photographer, after all. I told Oleg that I was meeting with Lenka. He nodded, without looking up from the phone. Didn't he even ask where and at what time? Is this indifference or unconditional trust? However, it doesn't matter. It's even to my advantage. The coffee shop turned out to be exactly as Stas described. Glass walls from floor to ceiling, wooden tables, the smell of fresh-baked goods. Outside the windows, snow-covered streets, passers-by in huge jackets, the sun breaking through the clouds. Stas was sitting by the window, but not at the table. He stood by the glass and was filming something. I approached quietly, not wanting to disturb. The light is amazing, he said, not turning around. Felt you? Look how the snow sparkles in the sun. Do you see? He showed me the screen. An ordinary street turned into a picture, millions of tiny diamonds on a white canvas, golden rays, silhouettes of trees. Beautiful, I said. You try to catch beauty everywhere. I try. He finally turned to me and smiled. Hello, red coat. Hello. We sat down at a table. He ordered a double espresso, I ordered a cinnamon latte. The conversation began on its own, without any forced "how are you doing" or awkward pauses. Tell me, how did you become a photographer? How did it all start? Oh, it's a long story. He leaned back in his chair. As a child, my father gave me an old film camera. Zenit, can you imagine? Heavy, with manual focus? I didn't understand anything, I just clicked everything. And what happened? It turned out to be nonsense. Blurred frames, cropped heads, highlights. But when I developed the first film and saw the image appear on the paper in red light, he shook his head. It was like magic. And I got hooked. He talked further about the institute that he left after the second year, because he realized it was not his, about the first filming of Friends for Food, about the years when I ate shortbread, photographed weddings on weekends so that I had enough for rent, about the first big order from the magazine, after which everything took off. And now? Now it's good. Commerce brings money, personal projects bring joy. Balance. He spoke without boasting, told his story with all the falls, mistakes, successes. I listened and caught myself thinking that I was incredibly interested in him. That the heart in my chest was trembling excitedly, and not from the tea contact, and completely makes my heart skip a beat. Your turn, he said. Tell me about yourself. Where? You? From Uryupinsk, a small town in the Volgograd region. Everyone knows each other there, and nothing ever changes. And you ran away? I left, I smiled. After school. I wanted to go to Moscow, a big life. Dad supported my desires, and Mom? Mom died early. Dad raised me alone. Sorry, he looked softly, without pity. Your father is probably an extraordinary person. He was. He died when I was 18. Heart. I myself was surprised at how easily I pronounced these words. Usually I avoided this topic, transferred the conversation. When I remember Dad, I feel sad, I want to cry. So I cry. So you achieved everything yourself, said Stas. I respect, not really myself. Friends helped. The first years were not easy. I told about the tiny room in the dorm, about 3 part-time jobs at the same time, about the first salary. About the fear and despair that I felt then, that I couldn't cope alone, that I would have to come back. And about the moment when I first felt that the fear was letting go, and everything worked out. Stas listened, did not look straight into the eyes, did not interrupt, nodded in the right places. When I fell silent, he said, "You are incredible, Alia." Seriously. I felt my heart miss another beat, and my face was filled with blood. What are you dreaming about now? He asked. What do you want from life? His question took me by surprise. I didn't know what to answer. When was the last time I was asked about this? Oleg didn't ask, normal was enough for him. At work, everyone was interested in deadlines and budgets. Friends and girlfriends didn't discuss this topic, except as a joke. And when I asked this question to myself, there was an awkward pause. I tried to remember what exactly I love, what I would like to do. Traveling, she began slowly, dully, as if something long forgotten. I want to see the world, New Zealand, Japan, Norway. I want a dog. I always wanted it, but somehow it didn't work out. And a house. Not an apartment, but a house, with large windows and a garden. I fell silent, embarrassed. I have some naive dreams. Superficial, a dog is sacred, Stas said seriously. I want a Labrador. Golden, so that the fur is like the sun. Labradors are cool, and also a house in the mountains. Imagine, morning, fog in the valley. You go out onto the terrace with a cup of coffee, and around there are peaks, silence, only birds and the wind. I imagined, very bright. It gave me chills. Mountains, fog, coffee. And for some reason I was not alone in this picture. Sounds like a dream, she said quietly. Because it's a dream, he smiled, and it will come true. All my dreams come true. I am stubborn. For a moment I felt that he was talking about me. All evening he made my heart either speed up or freeze. I was dizzy with a wave of long-forgotten feelings. After coffee we went for a walk. The clean ponds were covered with snow, the fir trees stood like on a Christmas card. Children slid down the hill, dogs ran around snowdrifts, couples sat on benches, hugging. We walked side by side, almost touching our elbows. Stas was telling me something funny about filming dog food, where the dog categorically refused to eat the advertised product. I laughed, and our laughter sounded unusual, loud. Easy, stop, he said suddenly, don't move. I took out a camera, a real one, not a phone. Stas, don't, I'm not photogenic, nonsense. Just stop. The click of the shutter. Another one. He walked around me, caught a different angle. Now turn a little to the left, look at the tree. I'll be like what in the pictures, you want tea. Trust. Fighting with embarrassment, I still followed his instructions. I looked at the snow-covered tree. Andy heard the clicks of the shutter. 1, 2, 3. Ready, he said. Come here, I'll show you. I walked up, looked into the camera screen and froze. Our faces were very close to each other. So much so that I could feel the aroma of his perfume, currants, bergamot, some kind of fruit, wood. His aroma seemed so seductive to me that it took me a lot of effort to look at the camera screen and focus on the conversation. I wonder if he is also concerned about our closeness. In the photographs there was a woman whom I did not immediately recognize, a red coat, dark curls, a slight smile, bright, lively eyes. She stood against the backdrop of snow-covered trees, and light seemed to emanate from her. Is that me? Asked stupidly. It's you, he looked at me, incessantly. Just the way you are. Beautiful. I didn't know what to answer. I haven't seen myself like this for a long time. I haven't felt like this for a long time. I'll send it to you, Stas said, breaking into a disarming smile. I'll print out the best frame. Thank you, I mumbled, once again feeling a rush of feelings. We moved on. The sun was setting, the pink light was pouring into the snow. It was time to leave. We stopped at the entrance to the metro. Let us do it again, he said. It's easy for me with you. Me too, I answered. At home the TV was on, a t-shirt on the back. Oleg was sitting on the sofa with a beer. How is your girlfriend? He asked without turning around. Okay. I went into the bathroom, closed the door, looked at myself in the mirror. I was excited, love was imprinted on my face. My hand itself reached for the pendant on my neck, a small piece of paper, warm from the skin. What am I doing, Dad? He would not condemn. He always said, live in such a way that you are not ashamed to look in the mirror. I looked. I was not ashamed. Scary a little. But not ashamed. The March thaw quickly burst into the city. The snow darkened, drops rang from the roofs, and there was a premonition of change in the air. Moscow was waking up from winter hibernation, and I lived with her. On Monday I received a message from Stas, come to the exhibition, my works will be there. Attached to the message was an electronic invitation with a beautiful design, Photographers of Russia, group exhibition. The address of the gallery is in the center, the date is Friday. I looked at the screen, I realized, this is not just coffee anymore. But how could I not go? The gallery was located in an old mansion on Prechistenka. White walls, high ceilings, dim light. People with glasses of wine slowly moved from picture to picture, talking quietly. I found his works in the back room, 5 photographs, each like a small world. The first is dawn over the white pillars. The city is still sleeping, only the first rays of the sun touch the tiled roofs. Fog in the valley, the silhouette of a church on hill. The beauty is such that it takes your breath away. The second is a portrait of an old man in the subway. A wrinkled, tired face, eyes in which there is a whole life, a whole story. Hands folded on my knees. I looked and could not tear myself away. Suddenly I felt a burning breath on my cheek. Stas crept up from behind, quiet, like a cat. "Do you like it?" he whispered. My heart trembled. I turned around and saw him in a dark jacket, unusually elegant, with a wide smile and fire in his eyes. "Very much," I said, "tell me about them." We slowly moved from picture to picture, and he said, "This one is in white pillars. I got up at 4 in the morning to catch this light. The owner of the hotel decided that I was crazy, and this, a random passerby." He sat down opposite me in the carriage. I asked, "Can I take it off?" He shrugged his shoulders, "Do what you want." We drove through 3 stations in silence, then he got out. I don't even know his name, and this, a photo of a grandmother on the porch of a village house. A colorful scarf, kind eyes, a smile full of warmth. "This is Grandma, my friend's grandmother. I came to their dacha, she fed me apple pies." He was silent. "She passed away last year. I'm glad that I managed to save it." I listened to him and understood something important. For Stas, photography is not just a job. It's a way to see the world, to notice beauty in the ordinary, to preserve moments that otherwise would have disappeared forever. And I wanted to be part of this world. I wanted him to someday talk about me in the same way, with warmth and tenderness. "What are you thinking now?" he asked, catching my gaze. "I think that you see something that others don't notice. This is the essence of photography." He shrugged slightly, "to show people that beauty passes by them every day." A man came up to us, talked to Stas about the exhibition, about plans. I walked away, so as not to disturb, looked at the works of other photographers. But my gaze kept returning to him, to the way he speaks enthusiastically, lively, the way he gestures, the way he laughs. "Oh, Daddy, what am I doing?" After the exhibition, we went out into the warm March evening. Moscow was shining with lights, the air smelled of melted snow and for some reason lilacs, although the lilacs were still far away. "Shall we take a walk?" Stas suggested. "Come on." We were walking along the boulevards, and he was telling something funny about a colleague who, while filming, managed to drop his camera into a fountain and dived after it in a suit. I laughed, and my laughter echoed along the empty alley. "You laugh beautifully," he said suddenly. "What? You laugh beautifully." Most people laugh as if they were shy, and you laugh from the heart. I didn't know what to answer. We walked a little more. The streetlights reflected yellow circles on the wet asphalt. Cars were making noise somewhere in the distance, but here, in the depths of the boulevard, it was quiet. And then he took my hand. My heart fluttered. Just like that, naturally, as if we had done this 1,000 times. I didn't clean up hand. His palm was warm and dry, large, reliable. We walked side by side and were silent. At some monument, I didn't even look to whom, he stopped, turned to me. "Alya, I can't be silent anymore." My heart sank somewhere down. "I really like you. And these are not just words. You're amazing, funny, smart, real. With you I want to be better, I want to do something important." He squeezed my hand a little tighter. It was obvious, it's stupid to deny. Somewhere over these weeks, between messages, conversations, laughter, something happened. Something that I didn't plan. Something that changed everything. "Stas, I I began and faltered, I need to figure it out. It's all so fast. He nodded without offense, without disappointment, I understand. Really, I understand. He raised my hand to his lips, touched his knuckles with a light kiss. I'll wait. You're worth it. I returned home late. Oleg was sitting on the couch, watching some action movie. Hello, I said, taking off my coat. Did you have dinner? Uh-huh. Dumplings. I went to the kitchen, poured myself some water. I need to figure it out. But what is there to figure out? Everything is clear. It's even obvious. I returned to the room, sat down next to Oleg, not close, but not far. He didn't pay attention, absorbed in the screen. Oleg, I said, can we talk? Eh? He finally paused. What happened? Nothing happened. I just want to talk. He looked dumbfounded. We rarely just talked. Lately, we almost didn't talk at all. Oleg, where are we going? You and I are together. What do you mean, literally? What do we want? What are you and I striving for? He shrugged his shoulders. Well, we will live as we live. Everything is normal. Normal, I repeated. What do you want? From life, from us? Yes, nothing special. He clearly did not understand what I was leading to. There is a job, there is an apartment, you are. What else do you need? What else do you need? I looked at him, at the man with whom I lived for 5 years. He was not bad, not evil, but nothing. Normal was enough for him, what he had was enough for him. But for me, no. Oleg, I said slowly, have you ever thought about more? About travel, about moving, about children? Travel is expensive, he scratched his chin. Moving? For what? And it's not bad here. Children? Well, someday, probably. Not now. Someday. Not now. We will live as we live. I see, I said. So what happened? He reached for the remote control. You're kind of strange today. Nothing. Forget it. He shrugged and turned on his movie. I didn't sleep a wink at night from excitement. Oleg had been sleeping for a long time. His measured breathing filled the room, and I kept thinking. How did I feel all this time with Oleg? Was I happy? Dinners with TV series, weekends apart, 3-word conversations. When was the last time we laughed together? Did you go on a date? When was the last time he told me that he loved me? When did he look at me the way Stas looks? Have you ever watched it? I turned on my side and felt the pendant on my neck, a small leaf, warm from my warmth. Dad liked to repeat one phrase, usually when I was upset about school, teachers, or boys, everything that seemed like the end of the world at that age. Daughter, don't settle for less. You deserve the best. Someone who will look at you as if you were the sun. Oleg didn't look at me like that. Maybe he once did, at the very beginning. And Stas looks. When dawn broke, I finally made a decision. I can't do this anymore and I don't want to. I woke up next to Oleg and felt emptiness. I had breakfast opposite him and understood, we have long become neighbors in apartment, no more. At some point, I stopped looking for excuses. I stopped telling myself, wait, everyone lives like this. It could have been worse. It could have been better. And I wanted better. Not for Stas, more precisely, not only because of him. Stas showed me that it happens differently. But the decision is mine. For myself. I chose Saturday, the morning, when Oleg had slept well and was in a relatively good mood. I cooked he wants coffee from Good Beans, just the way he likes it. I put the cup on the table. Oleg, we need to talk. He raised his eyes from the phone. Something in my voice apparently struck a chord. He put the phone down and looked carefully. What happened? I sat down opposite, inhaled, exhaled. I want to leave. Silence. He looked at me as if I had spoken in an unfamiliar language. What? He finally asked again. The meaning is to break up. Literally, to separate, to end the relationship. But why? He looked confusedly at the kitchen, as if he was looking for a clue there. After all, everything was fine. That's the point, Oleg. It's normal for you. But it's not enough for me. Not enough, total. Conversations, plans, dreams. You are happy with what you have, but I want more. I want to travel, I want to develop, I want to live a full, rich, interesting life, and not just be outside the groundhog. He was silent. The struggle of emotions was reflected on his face: pain, misunderstanding, anger. Is this because of someone? Asked hoarsely. Have you met someone? I could lie, say no. And formally it would be true. There was nothing between me and Stas, no kisses, no confessions on my part. But I didn't want to lie. I met myself, I said, the me that I want to be. And I want to be like that next to you. What kind of nonsense? He sharply pushed the cup away. The coffee spilled on the table. 5 years together and suddenly I want more. What has changed? I have changed. People don't change in a month. Sometimes they look back at their lives and realize that this is not what they want. He looked at me with a strange, uncomprehending look. We have lived together for so long, and now there is a wall between us. Think again, he said finally. Don't cut it rashly. Maybe you just need to rest, go somewhere. Oleg, I shook my head. Too thought for a long time. It's not rashly. But I'm sorry. You're a good person. But we want different things. It's better to admit it now than 10 years later. He sank back into the chair, hunched over, clasped his head in his hands. It hurt me to watch. After all, we were next to each other. Still, there was good stuff. After all, we were once happy and close. When will you leave? Asked, without raising his eyes. How can I find an apartment, my own? The hostess, an elderly woman with kind eyes, showed me the rooms and said, my granddaughter used to live here until she got married. It's a nice apartment, warm, the neighbors are quiet. I looked at the shining windowsill, at the old gas stove, at the window behind which a crane was sticking out, and felt wings spreading inside. I'll take it, I said. The move took one day. There weren't many things: clothes, books, a box with memorabilia. Oleg didn't come out to see me off. When I closed the door, I heard the sound of a TV from the room. During this time, I had accumulated enough things for only one suitcase. It's strange to sum it up like this. The first evening in a new apartment. There is almost no furniture, only a folding bed that the owner left, and an old chair. An undisassembled suitcase lies lonely in the corner, bare walls look from all sides. I ordered pizza, sat right on the floor, leaning my back against the wall, opened the box. Hot cheese stretches out, the aroma filled the room and suddenly I laughed. Just so, from relief, from the unfamiliarity of the situation, from everything at once. This is my life, she said out loud, mine. Oleg called 3 days later. Hello. His voice sounded muffled. How are you? It's normal. I'm settling in. Listen, I was thinking. Maybe you got carried away after all. Let's try again. I will change, I promise. I will talk more, plan something, pay more attention to you. I listened and waited for something to tremble inside. With regret, at least something. But nothing trembled. Oleg, she said softly, thank you for calling. But no. Why? At least a chance, I gave. 5 years is a lot of chances. I was silent, searching for words. Listen, I am grateful to you for these years. Really? You were an important part of my life. But this part is over, so what now? Now everyone is on their own. I would suggest remaining friends, but I'm afraid you won't agree. Long pause. I heard pain in his voice. No. I can't do that, I understand, I said. Take care of yourself, Oleg. He hung up the phone without saying goodbye. I sat on the folding bed and looked out the window. The crane at the construction site slowly turned, clicked, was lowering a concrete slab somewhere. It hurt me too. Even a lot. After all, we had been together for so many years. But this pain was necessary. To live through it and move on. The girls arrived on Saturday. Lenka escaped first, with a huge bouquet of tulips, a bottle of wine and bags from which a blanket was sticking out. For Vasilisa, she announced, looking around the apartment. Wow, it's hard to turn around here. I mean, it will be when you buy the furniture, I clarified. Liska came in behind her with a shopping bag full of cleaning products. So, she said busily. The stove, I see, remembers Brezhnev, but we'll wash it. Lenka, put the dates in the refrigerator, if there is even a refrigerator there. For the next 3 hours we scrubbed, washed, wiped. Lenka chatted incessantly, talked about her students, about the Newa diet, about a series that you definitely need to watch. Liska silently put things in order. By evening the apartment had changed. Still a bit empty, but clean, fresh. There were tulips on the windowsill. On the folding bed there was a new blanket, soft, warm, the color of baked milk. We sat on the floor, there weren't enough chairs, drank wine and ate cheese, which Lenka had prudently grabbed, for a new life. Lenka raised her glass, for a normal sofa to appear in this new life, added Liska. We laughed and clinked glasses. Girls, I said, thank you. Seriously. I don't know what I would do without you. I would sob in the corner, Liska chuckled. I would eat a small meal. Not true, Lenka was indignant. Alya knows how to cook. She would cook dumplings. We laughed again. I looked at them, at Lenka, red-haired and sunny, at Liska, grumpy and reliable, and felt my eyes stinging. I love you, she said. We know, Lenka hugged me. We you too. Now tell me about the photographer, Liska demanded, looking piercingly. Did you leave him or go to him? From my former self, I answered honestly. To my real self. Liska nodded as if this answer satisfied her. But there is still a photographer? Yes, and? I'm with a man over a bicycle map in a stormy friendship. Let's see. In the evening, when the girls left, I was lying on a folding bed, wrapped in a new blanket. The city lights were coming on outside the window. The phone beeped, a message from Stas. How are you? How's the move? I can help drag furniture, assemble something. I have screwdrivers, crooked hands, but there is enough enthusiasm for two. I smiled. Come, I wrote in response. There is a place for a screwdriver and for enthusiasm too. The answer came instantly, tomorrow at 10. Prepare coffee and a list of tasks. As promised, Stas arrived exactly at 10 with a huge sports bag, from which hammer and screwdriver handles were sticking out, and with a bag from the bakery, croissants, he announced from the doorway, because repairs without croissants are not repairs, but hard labor. I don't have repairs, I objected, only assembling furniture. This is even worse, he exclaimed. So, you need 2 croissants. We drank coffee on the floor, there were no tables yet, 8 croissants straight from the bag, and I talked about my grandiose plans, a closet in the corner, shelves above the folding bed, maybe even a curtain rod. A cornice is serious, Stas nodded. It's almost like a renovation. Can you handle it? You offend. I once assembled a chest of drawers from a Swedish store without instructions. And how? There were 4 extra parts left, but it still stands. We assembled the cabinet for 3 hours. The instructions turned out to be written in a language that had nothing to do with Russian, just pictures and mysterious symbols. Stas twisted the parts this way and that. I held the walls, which were trying to move apart in different directions. So this bulb goes here, you are sure? Absolutely. Well, probably. 60% inspires confidence. By the middle of the day, the closet stood a little crooked. One door closed with difficulty, and the second, on the contrary, opened by itself. But it stood perfect, said Stas, taking a step back. Can we go to the Museum of Modern Art, like an exhibit, like a masterpiece? Let's call it on the symmetry of being. I laughed so hard that my cheeks hurt. Then there were the shelves, they were dealt with faster, in just 2 hours and one pinched finger, his, not mine. But they hung smoothly. Almost. Wait, Stas said when we finished, I brought you something. He went out into the hallway and returned with something flat, wrapped in craft paper, a housewarming gift. I unwrapped it and froze. A photograph. From that very first walk along Chisti Prudi. I am in a red coat, against the backdrop of snow-covered trees, smiling, happy. He promised to print it out, he said. I selected the frame myself. We hung the photo above the folding bed. Stas scored nail, I was adjusting the height. They walked away and looked. I looked at the picture, myself in it, happy, alive, and suddenly I felt his breath on my cheek. Stas came so close to me that I could no longer hold back. Do you like it? He whispered. I turned around and looked into his eyes. His gaze was deep, in which sparks flashed. I had seen them before, but now nothing limited us. Very much, I answered, and for some reason my voice became quieter. He raised his hand, carefully removed a strand of hair from my face. His fingers slid along my cheek, a light, almost weightless touch. Alya. He pulled me towards him, and his lips touched mine. Softly, carefully, as if asking permission. And I answered. The kiss was passionate and tender at the same time. It made my head spin and my legs gave way. I wanted to dissolve in this moment and not let it go. May flowed into June. The days became long, the city was drowned in greenery, and my small apartment gradually turned into something cozy. Stas came often. He brought either a lamp that he saw at the flea market, look, what a lampshade, or a pot with a cactus, even you can't kill it, it's iron, or food for dinner, which we cooked together. He taught me how to take photographs. No, hold the camera like this. And look at the light. Do you see how it falls? You need to catch this angle. What angle? I see just a window, not just a window. Look, here the light scatters, here there is a shadow, and here is the most interesting thing. Transition. Do you feel it? I felt. Or learn to feel. With his help, ordinary things acquired depth. A crack on the wall became a graphic, a cup of coffee on a thermos became a still life, the view from the window became a landscape. You have an eye, he said one day, looking at my photographs. Seriously, we need to develop it. Everyone has an eye. Even two. I took him to the cinema. I found a club where they showed old films, Soviet, French, Italian. Small hall, creaky chairs, the smell of popcorn. Today beware of the car. I announced, classic. I watched it 100 times, a freeze-frame wound hurt. We sat in the semi-darkness, he held my hand, and I whispered lines in his ear a second before the actors said them. He rolled his eyes, but smiled. At the third session in a row of Phantomos we discussed it, woke up from the credits, looked at each other and burst out laughing. It's a draw, he said. Nobody watched it all the way through. That means no one's film is better. So, we have to watch it again. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. In July we went out of town. Stas found a lake, small, hidden in the forest, without crowds and barbecues, a secret place, he said, only our own people know. We arrived in the evening. The sun hung low, gilded the tops of the pines. The water was dark, calm, a mirror in which the sky was reflected. Stas immediately grabbed the camera, wandered to the shore, catching the light. I remained on the blanket, looking after him. Tall, concentrated, with the camera at the ready, he was in his element. Then he returned, sat down next to him, put the camera aside. We were silent. This silence was full, comfortable, the silence of people who do not need words to understand each other. It's beautiful here, I said finally. Yes, he looked at the water. I want to live like this someday. By the lake, in the forest, waking up from the silence, Moscow will not forgive, Moscow will survive. The sun touched the horizon, the sky turned pink, then purple. The water was burning with sunset. Stas turned to me, straightened my hair again, he always did this now. Alya, he said quietly, I'm glad you're here, me too. He leaned over and kissed me. Long, tenderly, slowly. All around it was getting dark, the first stars appeared in the sky, and we sat on the shore and kissed until we froze. Let's go home, he asked, finally, let's go. And the word home for the first time sounded as if we had a common home. December came with snow and garlands. Moscow was shining with lights, the air smelled of tangerines and pine needles, people were hurrying with bags of gifts. We decorated the Christmas tree. We'd that Esme and Stas in our apartment. Ours, because in the fall two moved in with him. A spacious apartment with large windows, high ceilings, and a view of the park. When he suggested, I agreed almost immediately. Are you sure? I asked then. Absolutely. And you? I was sure. Because I wanted to wake up next to him every day. Sashka was spinning at our feet, a 3-month-old Labrador, golden and impossibly eared. Stas's gift for my birthday. You wanted a dog, he said when I opened the box and a wet black nose stuck out. I cried with happiness while the puppy licked my face and wagged its tail so that he almost fell. Now Sashka tried to eat tinsel. Sashka, no. I took away the silver ribbon. This is not food. She looked at me reproachfully and immediately switched to the Christmas tree ball, which rolled under the sofa. Give her a carrot, Stas advised, balancing on a stepladder until she had eaten half of the decorations. She already. I took a carrot out of the refrigerator. Drying immediately forgot about the ball and joyfully ran towards me, a cloud like a theme on the parquet. Stas was fiddling with the star, trying to put it on the top of her head, but she stubbornly slid onto her side. Well, how? He asked, stepping back. Exactly? I looked. The star hung crookedly, like everything he collected and hung, crooked, as always, damn. Perfect. He turned around, saw my smile and laughed. Are you kidding me? No. I like the crooked. It has character. He got down from the stepladder, came up, hugged me from behind. We stood looking at our Christmas tree, a little ridiculous, decorated discordantly, with a crooked star on the top. Ours. There were photographs hanging on the sofa. The same one, from Chisty Prudy, where I am in a red coat against the backdrop of snow-covered trees. It all started with it. Nearby, new ones. We are in mountains of Georgia, October. Stas still took me there, showed me his favorite sunrise over Kazbek. I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, the wind is ruffling my hair, behind me there are peaks in the clouds. Happy. Free. Another one, Lenka and Liska on an ice picnic. We laugh. Lenka has a leaf stuck in her hair, Liska rolls her eyes, but also smiles. And stupid photo with Sashka, she licks Stas's cheek, and I laugh so hard that my eyes turned into slits. A small gallery of our life. A year that fits into a few frames. I didn't communicate with Oleg anymore. He couldn't. But through mutual friends I know that he found a new job, and everything is fine with him. Sashka finished the carrots and lay down on her bed, tired. Stasi went to the kitchen to prepare mulled wine. From there I smelled cinnamon and orange. I stood by the window, looked at the falling snow. My hand reached for the pendant on my neck, a small leaf, warm from the skin. "Dad," I whispered. "I'm fine." Snow was swirling outside the window, the entrance door slammed somewhere below, a ringing child's laugh was heard. I found someone who looks at me like that, as if I were the sun. You were right. Don't settle for less. Hey, Stas returned with 2 glasses of mulled wine, handed me one. What are you thinking about? About what a great year it was, just great? Okay, I smiled. The coolest year of my life. This is closer to the truth. The next one will be even better, said Stas. I have plans. Plans again? Which ones this time? First of all, New Zealand in the summer. You wanted, I broke into a smile. Is this serious? Absolutely. Secondly, we need to teach Sashka not to eat slippers. This is a long-term project, I agree. And thirdly, he fell silent, looked at me somehow especially. Thirdly, it's still a secret. What kind of secret? If I tell you, it won't be a secret. I wanted to be indignant, but he leaned over and kissed me. Softly, tenderly, you'll find out soon. Outside the window, the snow was falling thicker and thicker. The garlands were blinking on the trees. Tell me about your plans, I said. I'm ready to listen. He laughed and pulled me closer. Then make yourself comfortable. This will be a long time. And we sat next to each other, under a crooked star, next to a sleeping puppy.